I will pretend. Thanks everybody for coming today. My name is Holly May and I am with Impeccable Lending and we sponsored the lunch today. I think the most important thing when you're talking to lenders is really what can they do for you? And just to tell you briefly about Impeccable Lending, if you flip over to the back of the card, our core values of our company are on here. And every single morning at 8:30, we have a meeting with our entire team, and we pick a core value every day to make that the value of the day. So we talk about them regularly. There's something that's really important to us. Act with integrity, create raving fans, be bold, elite communication, outwork everybody, and keep it simple. So those are the values of our company, and we try and embody those every day to get every loan done that we can. We are located here in Asheville on Merriman in the Brownhaven Homes office, specialize in new construction, as well as HELOCs that we can get money within 5 days for people to buy land to get their home built on, as well as purchase and refi and everything else, but we do a lot of new construction. I am licensed in 5 states, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. So because we get so many people coming up from the other states, kind of crosses paths a lot there. So I hope everybody enjoys their presentation today. And if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, anything to do with new construction or HELOCs or anything like that, please don't be afraid to.
Thank you. All right. So first of all, thank you all for coming today. Thank you for reaching out to me, Matt, having me here. I'm Eric Kreger. I'm the interim property assessor for Buncombe County. And I'm here to talk about a few things about our office, mainly reappraisal that is going on. It is January 1 of 26. We'll touch on that. I'm going to talk about our basic office functions, answer any questions you all might have. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit about our duty to list process. That's in the slide here, and that does affect you all as real estate agents for property listings. So feel free to interrupt me anytime, ask questions. I'll also answer any questions at the end. If I can't get those answered for you, I'll shoot an answer out to Matt. He can distribute it to you or however you want to handle it. So I do have cards and brochures and all kinds of good stuff over there for everybody. So anyway, I'll get going. All right. So first off, talk about like where we are at the assessment office. We had to push reappraisal off. I became interim in September. Reappraisal 2025 was due to be January 1 of 25. 10 days after I became interim, Helene hit. So what that meant for us was after we got boots on the ground, started doing damage assessments out there in the community, started getting the real impact of what it really happened to us out there, ended up being too much for us to do reappraisal. Didn't make any sense. So we decided to push it off a year. I'm gonna talk about that date here in a minute in the next couple of slides, but now we're pushed off to January 1 of 26. So what we had to do, we were overwhelmed with damage assessments. We did 5,500 or so real estate parcels that were affected, thousands of site visits. That's what that translates to. Mobile home parks, business personal property, you know, a lot of manufacturing facilities were flooded. That didn't just affect the real estate, it affected the machinery and equipment that sat inside of it. And our office assesses all that too. So business personal property. So it's a lot of work that got put on us there. But typically in a normal year, we'll send out 12,000 or so real estate notices of value. What that is, that's building permits. That's audits that we do on site visits, making sure we have construction grade quality, square footage correct on homes, things like that. Also, real estate agents, you guys give us a call a lot of times to check your listings and let us know. We have to send a new value notice out in non-reappraisal years when we change something on somebody's property so that they get an opportunity to appeal it and understand why we changed what we changed and if it's correct. All right. So appeals right now, Preston knows about this. He's on our Board of Equalization and Review, which is the board that hears our appeals. We are currently scheduling appeal hearings to be heard. Appeal periods typically informally go straight to our office, January to April. And then also straight to the Board of Equalization and Review goes from around April to May. So And that board hears those appeals, and here's our side, here's the taxpayer side, and makes a decision. So just the basics of our office. Assessment office, we're responsible to assess all taxable personal property and real estate in the county. That is to be reported to us by the taxpayer. It's a self-reporting system. We do make a lot of effort out there to make sure people know that. We send list sheets to individual and business personal property owners. Real estate, you always have the record card site out there. I don't know if anybody remembers, if you're in real estate here, you got a postcard in the mail around last June to ask if your property characteristics were correct. That was our office doing outreach, trying to let you all know, like, we need information from you. You want to check and make sure we got our values correct. So about our personal property, it's valued on January 1 of each year. And real estate is valued on January 1 of each reappraisal year. So today in our office, those values are still January 1 of 2021. Okay. So that's why reappraisal is so important right now. We're 5 years out. So we need to get our values back up to market value. So in our office, we have a land records department, residential real estate, commercial real estate, exemptions department, business personal property, individual personal property. You know, we assess nearly 135,000 parcels a year. We have 7,000 or so tax relief parcels, elderly exemptions, veterans exemptions, charitable organizations, those kinds of things, churches, government properties. Those are all managed by our exemptions office. 9,000 business accounts. That's what I was talking about earlier. Factories, machinery, equipment, office complexes with furniture and computers. 9,000 individual accounts. Translates to mobile homes, trailers, and airplanes and boats. 250,000 registered motor vehicles, and 5,000 short-term and long-term rental accounts. So you're probably aware we send out rental list sheets. We ask for folks to report what they have in that home that they're using. So all those numbers are managed in our office by less than 35 people. It's a lot of work. So to do that, we utilize mass appraisal, which I'll talk about in the next few slides, but that translates to over $52 billion in value for the county. So touched on responsibility to list a minute ago. So basically, reiterating, this is a self-reporting system. There's issues with self-reporting systems. All 100 counties in the state of North Carolina do it this way. It's common practice in the assessment office, really across the country. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you get a property listing, we get this question a lot in the office. So I'll put this slide in here specifically for you all, and I figured it might prompt some questions. So when you list a property, we see that listing. We check our data against that one. And we want to make sure that we have it correct. Because when we put a value on that property, we use mass appraisal. So when we put a value on that property based on the characteristics that are on it. If we are wrong, that could potentially affect other properties. So we want to make sure that we have our data as close as possible to reality as it is. So what happens here when we don't have that data correct and we discover it? So we are required by statute, if we don't have property correct, to correct it and then discover that value. So there's two different processes there. One's called discovery and one's called immaterial irregularity. So the primary difference is this. So a discovery happens when the property owner does not permit or self-report to us the changes in their property. They do a renovation, it's unpermitted, or they don't notify our office. That's the primary one. Or add square footage onto their home. They don't notify our office. That's a discovery. And what that does is you bill for the current year plus 5 years for that value, but you put a 10% compounded penalty on every year and then apply interest. Don't really get a decision there. That's state law. Have to do it. Okay. It's not funny. It's fun. I don't like doing that. I end up in a lot of meetings trying to talk to homeowners about this and get them to understand. It's really an unfortunate thing. And the immaterial irregularities, that's an even more difficult one. So what that one is basically an error on our office. Okay. That's the way I see it. They do all the right things. They permit. They've notified us. We've done a site visit in some cases. I don't know if that one that general last one in the particular right now that's done in our office, but there is case law out there where a site visit was performed. I think it was in Henderson County, and they just didn't list it. They came out and saw it, they didn't list it. But that's an immaterial irregularity. What that does is that gets rid of the compounding 10% penalty. But you do have to pay for the back taxes of that value and with interest. So what that does is, all right. Okay, so reappraisal, the only way you can do it, and it's the international standard, is through mass appraisal. Okay, so what mass appraisal in a nutshell is you're grouping geographically and characteristically similar properties together to apply mass market adjustments to them. Okay, works pretty well as long as you got your data in good shape and good condition. So that's the main, just nutshell process of it. And we use the three approaches to value, which are in the next few slides. But in general statute, you can see here I got general statutes everywhere. But in 105-283, it requires us. In North Carolina, all 100 counties have to assess at true market value. Basically, and it's what I tell everybody when I go to community meetings and talk to them. You get that notice in the mail next spring from our office. If you don't feel like you could sell that property for that, you need to give us a call. That's the goal. We want to make sure you look at that and you go, I could sell this for $400,000 or more, you know. So if you can't do that, or well, a lot of folks will go, well, that's worth more than that, and they'll never contact us. But the goal is to get it at 100% of market value. It's not perfect, but we get as close as we can. Okay, so our reappraisal goals, you know, since every reappraisal, it's a learning process. You're not going to, it's mass appraisal. It's not perfect. Okay, so it's a self-reporting system too. So we're leaning on data collection. We're leaning on folks reporting to us, and we're having to apply the mass appraisal methodologies to accomplish it. So we learn a lot of lessons after each reappraisal, and we try to build on those in the next 4 years to improve our process. That's my favorite quote to the right there. That's a School of Government guy. One of my favorite instructors, and he said, pretty good data results in a pretty good reappraisal. It's actually a negative quote. You don't want a pretty good data. You want excellent data. You want your reappraisal to be as excellent as it can be. That's always the goal. So, you know, in the last few years, since 21, we did our reappraisal committee. We had an equity study done, and our appraisal team has really dug in, got a lot of education, a lot of classes, a lot of courses, gotten a lot of feedback from folks in the community about what we can improve on. Yes.
Is the Kevin Keene equity study up available?
Yes.
Okay.
It is on our website. They just revamped our website actually this week, and I'll send that to you. There was a PDF on there, so you can distribute it if you want to. So it's a read, that's for sure. So you did a great job for us. But basically, we all landed on outreach is a big one in assessment. You know, that's probably our biggest goal, is to make sure we get the word out. We want the community, our commercial real estate owners and our residential real estate owners to know, like, this is not a combative process. We want everybody to speak to us. We want to inform the public and let them know, like, we're out there and we're looking for you all to help us out as much as you can and you're willing to, of course. But so some of the big ones, obviously, is improvements in our data quality, doing more audits. We have now since 21, we've developed a data team. We have I was the manager of that team for a while before I became assistant assessor, now interim. So we have few folks on that team. We have a dedicated reappraisal analyst as well. We have two guys focusing right now on luxury real estate, making sure we're listing and assessing those correctly. We are drilling in on more modest homes in the county as well, because that's where you see your biggest gap. You know, they're very different. They still have very unique characteristics to their property that's easy to miss in mass appraisal. So really trying to nail that down and get that process. So we're also doing a lot more data modeling. We are integrating coding into our system, which is not something all assessment offices do. It's a difficult task to do. Modernizing our workflow. We have added staffing. We had less staffing in 21. I think we've added 5 positions since then, and that's a big deal for your local government office to be able to do that. We've also been refining our land and building valuation processes, depreciation audits, upgrades, market area redelineation. That's a hot topic. So we have a lot of lot of what we call neighborhoods. You'll see that interchangeably, market area neighborhoods. You'll see a lot of areas in the county where they have just old polygons that we haven't cleaned up. Basically, you'll look at like in West Asheville where there's like off State Street or somewhere like that. You'll see just neighborhood lines where the property values pretty much line up, but there's lines down the middle of parcels where you're like, well, why is that there? Well, the answer is because they drew that in when that area started getting developed, and then the other areas started getting developed. They just never combined areas. So we're working on getting our data cleaned up to where it makes more sense, where you can pull it up and review it. So transparency, audits, and measures. That leans back on data quality, doing checks on ourselves. There's a type of modeling out there called regression modeling that we do in our office. We don't use it to value, but we use it to audit. Okay, so why do reappraisal? Question I get a lot right now, especially after Helene. So because North Carolina Department of Revenue requires us to do it. Okay, so your assessment level, which is what we have appraised versus what homes sell for, at a median level across the entire county, if it drops below 85%, you get notified that you have to do a reappraisal in 3 years. And that's what happened to us in 2023. So we have to do it by 26. We had the luxury of being able to delay it after Helene hit, but we don't have that right now. So we need to get it done for this year. So another one, it's equalization and equity. Okay. So I built this graphic. I think this tells a good story. So if you look at this house right here, I live in a neighborhood in South Asheville, off Sweeten Creek. A whole lot of homes look like that. There's a lot of homes that look like that in Bent Creek. There's a lot of homes that look like that in East Asheville too. But what you want to make sure is you're assessing that home based on where it sits at 100% of its market level. Because in all those different areas, that home will sell for a different price. So our goal is to equalize and make sure that we're assessing it no matter where it sits as close to 100% as we can get. So there's an acceptability range in here of 105 to 95 usually, but that's our goal. Yes.
I have a question about this whole what a property actually sells for and your statement about how you want to get it as close to the assessed value.
Yes.
I've always been curious about this. When you have brand new construction that sells for $750 and then next year the tax notice comes out and it's assessed at $550. Why is that? When you have data that shows exactly what it will sell for.
Two answers to
It's
that.
on a reappraisal year. It lines up perfect.
Oh, on a reappraisal year. Yes. So one sale doesn't tell us market value. It's got to be 15, 20, 30 sales. That's how we pull it together. So you're going to have, that's probably what we would call an outlier. Okay. So you're not going to hit it on all of them. So we can't actually go to that one home and just change it to 750. That's illegal. Can't do it. It's called sales chasing. So we cannot do that. We have to apply mass appraisal to it. So like say this home sold for 750 in Big Creek or something like that, and there's 10 other sales in Big Creek for that sold for 550 or 500 or 475. So we're going to land on a median of that sales price, and that 750 gets kicked out. Kind of answer? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So that's in a nutshell. That's what we do. I mean, there's more detail to it than that. We look at every sale. We qualify the sales. We kick out sales that look like it's there's a deal happening there or there's different motivations. It's not a fair market transaction. So we do kick those out. Those do not affect property value. So to value these properties, we use 3 approaches to value. Sure y'all are familiar with. First, it's cost approach. It's our base for valuation. What's it cost to construct? Now that is the main valuation process for very unique properties. Churches, specialized manufacturing. Think about Pratt & Whitney. You don't see a Pratt & Whitney sale. I mean, what are you going to do there? So it's going to be cost approach typically, and local government. So we do value those off cost. Sales comparison. We all know this. It's pretty much what we've been talking about. So it's all residential or pretty much going to be on your sales comparison approach. Any condominiums, townhomes, single family homes. Then income approach, commercial property that produces revenue. So we do market research. We actually are about to, again, this year, send out what we call income surveys to our local businesses, our local commercial real estate owners, to see what they're leasing properties for, what's their vacancy and loss in these hotels and apartments, what we got going on. Because, we wouldn't do that, but Helene hit, and that really affected us here. So we got to get that drilled down. So that's coming in the next, I would say, 3 weeks to our local business owners or local commercial real estate owners. So land valuation. Said earlier that we were refining our land and building valuation processes. This is getting kind of nerdy into the weeds. If you have questions about it, I'll happily talk about it, but but it's a big deal for us in the office. Our reappraisal analysts, they're working really hard on these. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we're approaching our land in a more equitable manner. I'm not saying we haven't in the past, but we're making it a lot better. We have a lot more capabilities now, a lot more technology at our fingertips. So we're looking at all the land values in the county and making sure that they make sense at a rate per acre, rate per square foot, all those different metrics. So you don't look at a home that are sitting next to each other. The overall market values, say 300,000, 325,000. Okay, it looks all right. But then you break it down, look at the building and the land. Well, the land's $20,000 difference than what's next to it. We don't want that. So we're addressing that. And that's been something that has been talked about. So basically we're doing that through size adjustment curves and our market adjustments on these neighborhoods and in these commercial corridors. Building valuation, same thing. We're looking at the base valuation process for it and fine tuning. Overall, what these things mean, it lands on our basic valuation method for residential real estate in the county, which is called the market adjusted cost approach. So your land's at your base. That's the first thing you hit. You pretend that there's no building on it. So what's that land worth? There's nothing there. Then we put our market area multiplier saying what's that land value going to be in that particular part of the county, in that particular neighborhood. So you want to know South Asheville, okay, it's got a basic land rate, but the Ramble's in South Asheville. That land rate's going to be different, okay? It's not going to be the same as the land rate in my neighborhood. I don't live in the Ramble. So it's going to be a little different. So building cost. So what's your base cost of construction for building? Okay. Same method. What's the market area multiplier for that building? That graphic I put up for that split level home earlier, what that costs to build that house. So what's it sell for? So you do a market adjustment on that based on where it sits. Then value. That's where it lands. So your overall value. That's the basics of how that's created. And so what's next for our office? It's a lot of things. I'm going to be busy. Okay, so July through December, I want to present the schedule of values. And what the schedule of values is, it's basically every reappraisal we got this thick book of our rules that we put in place. We put construction costs in there. We put all our updates to the methodology. And what that does is that is basically our rules that we cannot break for the next 4 years or 3 years until the next reappraisal. So we put that out there for the public to see it, and they even can appeal it just like you would your property. Yeah, you'll go right to Raleigh, and we'll go to Raleigh, and we'll talk about why you're appealing. So in August, I'll be presenting that to the commissioners. If they choose to adopt it, that appeal period I was just talking about opens. Should be around October timeframe. And then November, we're auditing, we're working hard, we're doing site visits, we're doing all that kind of stuff. So you'll see us out there. You'll probably see me out. You'll definitely see me in community meetings and things like that. You'll probably get tired of looking at me. And then year interview with our reappraisal consultant. We did hire a reappraisal consultant to just look at our processes and oversee what we're doing and offer some suggestions. So they're not doing the reappraisal. They're just looking at our processes. They're actually doing some market area research for commercial property for us too.
This is different than Kevin Keene.
Different, yes. Yeah, I'll say I'm going to consult with Kevin Keene at the end too. He's going to do a study and look at it. It's in the plans. So,
Cool.
yeah. I feel like having as many eyes, external eyes look at it as possible is going to result in a better valuation. Make folks feel better about what we're putting out there as well. So after January, you'll get the value notices in the mail. The goal is to get them out mid-February. I'll try to dodge Valentine's Day, but it'll be around that time. So then that's when the informal appeal process closes in April. So January 1 to April is really the informal appeal process when you can appeal directly to our office, but you won't get your value notice until February. So you'll probably get around the first Monday of April. That period will end up closing. And then your formal one, where you appeal directly to the Board of Equalization, opens up and closes in May. Now, that's still the appeal period. You can appeal probably until early to mid-May of next year. That date's going to get published and it'll be put on that notice when we mail it to you, so you will know. So there's easy ways to appeal to. You can go directly online. We're updating that website, the appeal website, pushing that out to the public, and I'll be bugging Matt about appeals and things like that in the coming months. So yeah. And that's it. So the Board of Equalization, they'll be hearing appeals starting next June. I've been getting a lot of questions about how many appeals I expect. So I expect thousands of appeals. We got 6,021, and that was low. So I'm expecting double that. Just knowing how the market went up since 21, we're certainly dipping and then leveling, but 2021, that market exploded in 22. So we immediately went underneath the DOR threshold of 85% in a year and a half. So heads up.
Just on admin question.
Yes.
Are you required to mail those out on paper
Yes.
by law? You can't electronically deliver them?
I think you have to notify in some form or fashion. We don't have any way to electronically send those. From best of my knowledge, all 100 counties just mail them. It's a lot of paper. It drives me crazy because so I love paperless process, but unfortunately, that's not one that we have capability to do. I would love to see a process in place where residents can register, businesses can register, and we just email them notices. You'd also cut back on return mail, return postage. That's it, return mail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? That is my last slide. So, yeah.
Are you using AI yet for any of this work?
AI? No. We've contracted with a machine learning software vendor, and they just help us audit our data. Now we don't use AI to value. I don't know of any municipalities that do, but the product we use is widely used. It's SaaS. It's going to be in our schedule of values when we put it out there that it helps us, but we don't use it to value. We use it to check our data. So a lot of times you can compare what we have to that, and that'll let us know we need to investigate something. Typically, it means we need to update a building grade, something like that.
So not to dredge up bad memories, but there's obviously a reason you guys got the second opinion clean equity study.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you're doing to make a concerted effort to try and get the value as accurate as possible and address some of those claims that were made? Yeah,
well, the one good thing that came for our office out of his equity study was that we weren't being inequitable, So the biggest deal in assessment is if you're going to make a mistake, you better have made that mistake everywhere. And if you're doing the right thing, do the right thing everywhere. And, I'm pretty proud of our office. We have a lot of skilled appraisers there, a lot of skilled employees there. We're a small group, but, we did a pretty good job with what we've done in office as far as our data quality goes. But the biggest suggestion he had was data quality, getting out there, boots on the ground, driving through these communities, doing relisting, just getting eyes on property. He actually identified in his study, these are not my words, but he called them disadvantaged communities. So basically, these are communities with lower real estate activity, not as many permits pulled, some that we haven't site visited in quite a while, and a lot of them could potentially have lower building grades than what we haven't assessed at. And we actually sent, I think it's 2,000 parcels. Someone went out there and looked at every one of them.
So you were saying you're gonna hire a modest price range person?
Yeah, we were.
So is the idea to make sure that those aren't being overvalued?
Yes, and primarily that's primarily speaking about mobile homes attached to real estate, mobile home personal property. But yeah, we're not going to hire an additional person for it. We've got a team that we're going to accomplish that with. I see the luxury and the more modest properties, more like project oriented kind of deals, data that we need to review and clean up and make sure that we're being equitable on. So yeah, we are tackling that. We have those areas pulled out and folks are tackling that. Yes.
What happens if you've got a house that, you got your CO, new construction,
Mhm.
you move in and it's not complete, like you're still missing, like, still block walls on the foundation and you may not have trim and stuff around all the windows, like.
Okay.
You got moved in.
Yeah,
Is there
so
any-
you can contact our office. That'd be a conversation, send in photos to our appraisal team and talk about it. But one thing to remember is only thing that matters is how it sat on January 1 of that year. So if you were fully constructed and living in that home today, but it was only 50% complete, your bill, as of January 1 of this year, your bill coming to you in August is only going to be for the 50% complete of that home. Does that make sense? Yeah. So trying to think of it, how to say it, but you're not moved in yet January 1. It's only half complete. Our billing that comes out in August is for that prior year. Okay. As of January 1 of the prior year. So now starting on August 1st, we started working on next year's bills. So we need a full year to work on that. So next year's bills will be the reappraisal. Yes.
So what happens if you're living in a house that's not done, but you never finish it, just keep living in it?
You need to call our office so we got the condition correct on that home. Yeah. There's adjustments to be made because we cannot, by law, go inside your home. So that takes communication. So if you get a value from us, you're going, this isn't a $500,000 home, I haven't finished it. You need to take photos, send it to us, call our office, start that conversation with the appraisers. They want to get it right. So.
All the commercial land that was damaged during Helene, has most of that been reappraised and built more and River Oaks?
Yeah, we're working through all those. That's one of the things our consultant that we have is helping us with too. But yeah, one of the things we did put damage adjustments on land. So that is there. So we are doing that. We did it on all the buildings that were affected. We actually had a guidance from Dare County, who's seen a lot of hurricanes. They shared their process with us, Onslow County as well. So that was my first thing I did when I could actually get a phone call
A lot of
out.
them are just land value now, there's no value in any of this building.
A lot of them are. Some of them that are back got adjustments down for that. As of January 1, they weren't in business or they weren't able to function, but the building was still there and they were rehabbing it. That did have a building value on it. So we had a certain tiers of percentages of adjustments because we had to apply a massive appraisal approach to damage. And one of the things too that I keep telling folks when they say, well, it costs this much to fix it or correct it. It's like that value is January 1 of 21 value. So I have to pretend Helene hit us in January 1 of 21 still because that's the cost. The cost is different. Yes.
I understand that staff is an issue, right? If your first slide.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. And I understand it's a state governed thing in terms of basically you don't get a choice in rewarding someone for self-reporting, right?
Yeah.
If things are off. Obviously, we want to check that a lot if we're on the buy side or anything,
Mhm.
or if you're getting hired by a client. Is there any appetite for changing that to reward people for self-reporting, given that?
I would love to see things cleaned up in the discovery and immaterial regularity laws.
Yeah.
But
Just curious.
my hands are tied on
No,
it. Yeah.
I was just saying to you, I was just curious.
Yeah, there's definitely-
To help you guys clean it up faster.
Yeah, there's definitely things like I believe assessing offices would love to see improved in those statutes, but they're very vague. And you do see case law where immaterial irregularities are upheld. Yeah, I can think of one where a building was labeled as an outbuilding, and we'd seen it, but that wasn't an outbuilding, it was a rental property. So that's an immaterial irregularity that you gotta go back for 5 years on. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's not a good conversation.
Can I give you like a real world scenario and
Absolutely.
ask you how this would play itself out? And I'll admit, it's my house, so
Okay,
I'll make it really pretty.
I won't look you up or anything. You're good.
But like, I just got the property card, that thing in the mail, 8 months ago.
Mhm.
And I noticed, and I hadn't paid much attention to it, it's short of bathroom, square footage, the finished square footage is off by 1,000 square feet. But I can tell when I really look at it, whoever came up with these numbers from the get-go was the one that was wrong. Like, this was all done by the original owners. I'm 2 owners later,
Yeah.
and I haven't changed any square footage, I've improved things. But what happens there? I bought my house in 2018. The MLS was correct on its square footage, but the tax card is wrong. And what happens to somebody like me now? If I come in and I say, wait a second, there's another bathroom. It
Yeah.
wasn't, I don't know.
So things like, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, you're fine.
So things like just another bathroom, believe it or not, that's not going to drive value up, and it's not too significant of it needs to be significant. Okay. That's the kicker. Usually a significant means a complete grade difference, a renovation that we didn't know about, and quite a bit of additional square footage. A very well done finished basement we weren't aware of. So, the cost of a bathroom in our 2021 values is, I think, $10,000 in value. That's pretty low, right? Because everything's based on, your normal grade of construction, and then factors are applied as it gets nicer and nicer and nicer, right? Or negative. So $10,000 is about a $5 tax bill.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do a discovery or to regularity on that. So there's different degrees of it.
But so I've got
It would depend.
What about the square footage, I don't know why it was ever listed as unfinished. It's clear, I mean, we're talking finished walls, ceilings, floors, nothing, big empty rooms.
Yeah, it would be tough without actually reviewing it and going over it with you, because it has to be significant. So if it was 100 square feet now, 200 square feet now, but if you're talking like 1,200 square feet and it's finished and we never knew about it, you'd probably get an immaterial irregularity. And it wouldn't be the 10% compounding penalty on top of the value. It would be just the value, which you can discuss with the appraiser, and you can appeal that too. But also it would be the value bill with interest on it.
So somebody would call me or email me and say, hey, this is,
Yeah.
I need.
Well, if you list it, yeah, they will. But if you self-report it, you would have that conversation with.
On that note, significant. I know the statute doesn't define it.
Yeah.
Is there case law? Do you guys have like an internal book where you have some sort of parameters on what qualifies as significant?
Yeah, right now that is the description of it we have in the office. It's finished. It's basements we didn't know that were finished. Additional significant amount of square footage, like 500 or so square feet, something like that, or an addition put on we didn't know about, or gut reno that we were unaware of that would change the grade of the building. Those kinds of things. So.
A couple of months ago, I got a notice, it's kind of out of clear blue, that the value of the property gone up. Why? It's based on some kind of aerial photography or something?
Yeah. So what probably happened there is we contracted a company called Eagle View. They have a program called Sketch Inspect, and it's likely we had the sketch of your property. What it does is they take the sketch we have in our sketching software and overlay it over aerial imagery, and they use a machine learning process to see how much difference there is, and it notifies us if there's a difference, and we check it. That's likely what that was. A lot of folks got new notices of value. Now, ideally, that would have happened in the reappraisal year, but we'd already done all that work before the lien hit. But that's what that would be.
I got the same thing, and they made an analysis that I had a building there that was of value, like real estate value, and so I called them and said, no, this is an RV sitting on a chassis, and the guy instantly was like, oh, okay, you dropped the value.
Yeah. Thank you for calling about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
My property value significantly, and it's not
Yeah.
actual real property.
Yeah, and you're probably already
Yeah,
paying,
They changed the meaning.
Yeah.
yeah, you probably already were paying personal property tax on that too, so. Double dip it.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that. Anybody else?
This was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me stumble through that.